Today we're going to tell you exactly how we spent $7,000 on our brunch wedding. Every piece that we had envisioned and wanted turned out better than we could have imagined. And we didn't go into debt for it, which was really exciting. Max, we did not want to spend more than $10,000, and we ended up spending, I think, a little over $7,000, so maybe like $7,100, give or take. If it was our way, we would have spent less than $3,000 and would have eloped, but I think my mom would have killed both of us if we eloped without her. So it was really important to us to not go in debt from paying for this wedding. We wanted to pay everything outright, and we were willing to kind of not have the top people in Atlanta in order to be able to capture what we wanted that day. I think my top priority for the wedding was to find an all-encompassing venue. I wanted to find one place where we could be the whole time that's also gonna have food, where we don't need to be renting from multiple places. When we found the venue and we checked it out, it was kind of exactly what we were looking for. It was quaint and simple, but very pretty. They had a lot of plants already there, which we enjoy. We love greenery. It just kind of felt like a good place to have our wedding, and at the same time, a lot of the earthy natural decor that we like was there. So it didn't feel like we had to buy a lot or spend a lot of money to elevate kind of what we wanted. I reached out and they had dates in June available, so it kind of just rolled from there. So at IVT House, our venue, we ended up spending $2,790, and that included food, setup, plates, linens, cleanup. Meal per person was $40 per person, and we ended up having 28 people at our wedding. We decided to do a brunch wedding. We knew Sunday would be perfect. One, it's cheaper, and having breakfast seemed like a better option for us than a big dinner. Saturday or Friday night weddings are expensive, plus I feel like those are very party-centric, and that's not our style. We definitely didn't want to spend a lot of money on booze. We are not big drinkers, so to have something like mimosas, simple, easy. So we spent $81 on champagne from Costco. We didn't have dancing at our wedding, and that determined a lot of how the day would be and how it would look. We didn't even first dance because we talked about it actually, that we were scared we were going to regret it. But everything felt kind of right. And again, the people that were there know we don't like dancing, or know, like they know we're not big drinkers, or they know that, we're not over the top people. So people weren't disappointed when they left. They left feeling like they were at a Sean and Sarah wedding. My wedding gift to Sean was a new disc basket, and so we had that set up at the wedding as well, and kids were chucking discs, and I think there's even a video of me in my wedding dress throwing some, and it just kind of added to that hanging out with Sarah and Sean kind of feel.
How did you do the save the dates?
So we didn't do save the dates. We actually, I think from what I've been told, invitations are supposed to go out like 3 to 4 months before the wedding, and we were planning a wedding in 3 months. So our save the dates were basically text messages to people. We did do paper invitations. We honestly gave half to people, like in person when we saw them, and then mailed the other ones. It was very simple. We did nothing fancy. $75 for both the invitations and the envelopes. For our wedding dress, or our wedding dresses, for my wedding dress, I did the traditional try-on for the experience, went to like a fancy boutique with 2 of my closest friends, my mom, and it was great, but none of the dresses like really worked for our day. Kind of what I had in mind for like this whimsical boho type garden wedding. And then my mom and I went to David's Bridal and tried on a dress that just kind of felt right. We spent $875 total. That included alterations, my actual dress, which I got at David's Bridal. They also did the alterations. And it also included my jewelry. My dress kind of came low in the back, and I had a friend who told me to do more of a necklace on the back than on the front. So I found a necklace and earrings off Etsy, and then I got a bracelet for $10 off Amazon. So it was all pretty inexpensive for my outfit, and Sean's suit was $200.
And then I think we ordered it online.
Yeah, from Jose Banks, and they had a sale. And then you had your white shirt and shoes, and you already had a belt. I found this great stylist who does hair and makeup, and for under like $350, she did a test for both the hair and the makeup, and then she even did my mom's makeup. I knew that I did not want anything too glam or crazy. It was more out of just not wanting to do it myself. I did not want a veil, definitely didn't want a veil, but I wanted to add something. So picked up some baby's breath from Kroger, and she just kind of put it along my hair, and it kind of all just fit perfectly, again, with that kind of whimsical garden feel, just straight from even like my own look. Our florists were amazing. It was a mother and daughter team called Modern Blooms, Georgia. We were actually told when we were planning on getting married in June, people were like, don't get married in June, you're never gonna be able to afford flowers. But we ended up going only to 615, and that was gonna include my bouquet, Sean's boutonniere, my dad had a boutonniere and so did our officiant, and then greenery along all the tables, the buffet tables, the guest tables, and I loved our flowers. I loved the way everything just kind of tied together. I think adding baby's breath, the white simplicity of it, everything looked amazing. I mean, it looked like thousands of dollars worth of greenery and flowers. And I was expecting us to spend a lot of money on it. That'd be one of the high ticket items. And while for our budget, it was one of the higher items, it was very reasonable. One of our key items for decor, we wanted to do candles, kind of white candles, different types of sizes, weights in hurricane vases. Clean, simple, but very romantic. And those cost $75. They had linens for the table, but we brought like extra fabric for the arch and for the tables. We brought everything for the cake table, which actually we owned most of that. I owned a cake stand. I had candlesticks that I brought, photos we kind of put around that we have in our house. With Sean's parents both being passed, it was important to include things of them in it. We had 2 seats reserved for them, and even had like their wedding photo at our wedding.
Okay, you've been bringing up this arch. Sean, you have to tell us the story of how this arch came to be.
Well, once I had seen the arch that we spent the entire day decorating prior,
Which also was wobbly and it was horrible.
it didn't want to stand upright, and the more I looked at it thinking that I was going to have to see the pictures of our wedding underneath this thing for the rest of our lives, I was saying, ooh, this is not going to do. I decided to spend $10 at Home Depot on a couple boards and make our own arch. And I had our
Officiant, best friend.
officiant, he helped me make it and then put a finish on it, and we brought it over there the morning of and re-draped it. I took their arch and I hid it behind a shed, and I left mine there.
Yeah, it's still there actually. We've driven past it, we'll see, we're like, oh, that's such a good looking arch. They're so lucky. I started looking at cakes, and I got discouraged because everyone kept saying you need to do a cake tasting. And cake tastings were costing $50 to $100 to $150. And I was like, I don't even want to spend that much on our wedding cake, let alone a cake tasting. So I kind of just thought, well, what do we want? We want simple, we want white to match everything else. And it just kind of made sense that we were going to do a Chantilly berry cake. I remembered Whole Foods has one of the best ones. And so we saw that Whole Foods cake, I think, was $38 for a round one. When you heard the price, you were like, done. And then we wanted a little taller, so we added an extra layer, and I think our cake ended up being $45 total. And then we ended up getting a quarter cake of our exact cake for guests to have. So that itself, I think, was another $50. I think that was probably one of our best buys for the whole wedding, because we had friends that when they were there and they took a bite of the cake, they kept asking us where we got it from because it was better than their own wedding cake. And when we told them Whole Foods, they were kind of shocked. Our officiant was one of our dearest friends, and he didn't charge us, which was really nice.
Well, wait, we paid for him to do the online.
No, he paid for it.
Oh, he paid for him to do the online.
That was essentially, I would say that's our wedding gift.
But
from
I
him.
think it was only maybe like $100 at the very most.
He did buy the super package because it's
They gave you a sash
They
and
gave him a
everything.
sash, and they gave him certification. He's got this nice little certificate for it, and so we call him Father John, who he married us. For our photographer, we spent $600. I wanted to find someone who was first a nice person and who was able to kind of get the vision of what I wanted. Sean and I are not great in front of the camera, so finding someone who was genuine and who was able to kind of loosen us up was kind of the top priority for us. I do regret not spending more on photography. Our photographer was great, but he had, different types of packages, and we kind of went on the lower one, thinking that we just wanted pictures of the day, but I wish we could have had him for the whole day. So I did a first look with my dad. We did a first look before our ceremony, and then he captured the ceremony and group photos. But I wish we would have spent more and kind of gone with him to be there all day. And then our videographer, which was $550, including his tip, he was able to shoot our first look and then our ceremony and kind of random pockets of the reception.
I think the coordinator kind of came up towards the end, but ended up being completely necessary.
For me, in the beginning, we were planning, and even Sean, I think it was like, we can do everything. We are both very independent people that we don't like to ask for a lot of help.
You can't do everything. You can't do most of it. You need to.
Yeah. She was $540, which still is a shock, I think, to us. She probably should charge a lot more, but I'm glad she didn't charge us more. She jumped in, she contacted all the vendors, she got all the information, she had all the contracts. She ended up negotiating even some changes of contracts with our vendors. She had an itinerary for the day. She was there at our rehearsal, and she was absolutely amazing, even helped cleaning up, set up. So anyone that thinks they could do the wedding themselves, good luck. I had worked really, really hard on making a wedding that felt like us.
Everything that she would come back to me with and say, okay, well, I think we need this now. And I just say no right off the bat. Nope, too expensive. Don't do it. And if she followed my advice, it would have been terrible.
I had this idea in my head of simplicity and a lot of greenery. And I was just scared that given we didn't spend a lot of money, things were just gonna end up looking cheap. And when we got up to the venue after doing our first look and everything was done, I mean, it was breathtaking. Everything was so cohesive, everything worked so well together. I knew Sean wanted to be my husband, but I knew the wedding and stuff wasn't a big deal for him. And so to see him love it and to see him say, like, I get it, I get why it's important and to have everybody here, I'm gonna get emotional. It just meant so much. It was the most perfect day. It was the most perfect day.
Yeah, it turned out better than we ever could have imagined.
I think budgeting doesn't always mean you have to spend less. I think one thing I definitely learned from our wedding is there are things that are worth spending a little more on, and as long as Sean and I are on the same page, it's okay to spend a little more and not always choose one of the less expensive options.
Hello.
Hey, Crystal.
Hello.
Hello.
Crystal, when you look back at our wedding, what's one of your favorite moments?
One of my favorite moments was just watching the two of you go down the aisle and just how intimate the wedding was. It was just all of us that love you the most that got to be there and witness this. It meant fulfilling a promise that I made to my mother that I would watch over him and make sure he was taken care of, and I feel that promise has been fulfilled now, and
Oh my God, I love that.
it So yeah, that's what it really, really meant to me, that it was like, okay, I can pass the torch and kind of rest now, that he's got someone that will be with him until death, that loves him as much as I do.